All of these unbelievable entries are surprisingly accurate, folks, and are about to provide you with some rather impressive / fascinating movie trivia. You are welcome. Because I am Gareth, this is Whatculture, and here are unbelievable movie facts that are somehow true. M. Night Shyamalan surprisingly helped write a little family flick. The lover of mind-blowing twists known as M. Night Shyamalan has crafted some of the finest big screen thrillers and horrors of the last 3 decades. Writing and directing everything from Signs to Unbreakable to Old during his intriguing career. Perhaps more surprising than any of his many iconic and shocking twists, however, is the fact this creator of rather tense and suspense-filled flicks once helped create one of the sweetest movies of the 90s. There was a time there when Shyamalan was very much fighting to make family films, and it was that urge to create this sort of work once upon a time which actually led to him co-writing the screenplay for the first Stuart Little film, a family-friendly talking mouse hit that actually arrived in theaters the same year as his iconic thriller The Sixth Sense. Shyamalan wouldn't return to help write either of the follow-ups, but it's still rather odd to think that the mind behind many a chilling supernatural picture was also partly responsible for writing the adaptation of this funny, heartwarming story of a mouse being adopted by a human family. What a world, eh? The real reason James Cameron wanted to make Titanic. Along with being the masterful director behind the likes of the Avatar movies, Aliens, and the first 2 Terminator flicks, James Cameron also unforgettably brought the tragic classic that is Titanic to screens in 1997. But what actually drew the world-class filmmaker to this story about the sinking of an iconic ocean liner? Was it the thought of getting to tell a beautiful love story in the middle of such a shocking disaster? Or perhaps Cameron was simply searching for awards recognition with this big-budget drama? Well, it turns out, according to an interview the director did with Playboy back in 2009, that Cameron was actually more interested in exploring the real-life Titanic wreck than anything else. He even surprisingly admitted during that conversation, "I made Titanic because I wanted to dive to the shipwreck, not because I particularly wanted to make the movie." And in the end, Cameron was very much able to quote-unquote make a Hollywood movie to pay for an expedition, shooting at the wreck on 12 occasions, and managed to create a movie that ended up winning a stonking 11 Academy Awards in the process. Not bad for a project unbelievably largely made just because Cameron fancied exploring the wreck. Now I want to know, what is your favourite James Cameron movie? Is it Titanic, Aliens, Avatar, or something else? You let me know in the comment section down below. The producers wanted to kill a Hobbit in The Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings trilogy may boast a number of fearless warriors, including badass men and women, majestic elves, brave dwarves, and powerful wizards. But the true MVPs of this series are unquestionably the 4 hobbits dumped into the middle of this War of the Ring. Despite coming up against many an orc, troll, giant spider, and fell beast throughout the trilogy though, Frodo Baggins, Samwise Gamgee, Meriadoc Brandybuck, and Peregrine Took all actually managed to survive to the very end of both the books and films. But you probably never realized just how close you were to witnessing one of these legendary hobbits shockingly fall during this quest to destroy the One Ring. Unbelievable, right? But it's the truth. Back when Peter Jackson was bringing these iconic tales to the screen, the filmmaker was very much being pressured by producers at the time to kill off one of the hobbits. In other words, there would have been no more second breakfast for one of these little heroes if Jackson had yielded to these demands. As merry actor Dominic Monaghan recalled though, "I think Pete quite rightly was like, this is a luminary piece of written work, and we need to stick close to the text." So he stuck by his guns, and they all lived happily ever after to the end of their days. Oi, you're a legend. Thanks for watching this video, and hit that subscribe button down below for more Whatculture videos in your life. Tony Hawk inspired Tarzan. Tarzan and Tony Hawk were 2 names you likely didn't expect to hear in the same sentence today. But strangely enough, that latter skateboarding icon actually hugely influenced the Disney animated version of the former in that classic 1999 feature during one rather stunning sequence. You know that terrific Son of Man tune written and sang by a Phil Collins on top top form. While the impressive tree surfing the titular figure can be seen doing throughout that absolute banger was actually inspired by the legendary skateboarder. As the movie's supervising animator Glenn Keane would eventually explain, Edgar Rice Burroughs' book describes a Tarzan that is like a wild man, somebody that the adrenaline had to be pumping through. So Keane took one look at that and thought, this son of man right here was an extreme sports guy. From here, Keane took inspiration from Hawk's exceptional moves on a board, turned Tarzan into an awesome tree surfer, and one of the coolest moments of the Disney hit was ultimately born. Buzz Lightyear's name was once. Sticking in the Disney animation sphere for this next entry, Pixar's Toy Story brought with it the arrival of the soon-to-be iconic duo of Woody and Buzz Lightyear in 1995. Long before that latter Space Ranger first fell with style in that hugely popular first entry into the eventual franchise, however, this Buzz actually initially went by a few other quite jarring names. Prior to landing on that outstanding Lightyear title for their delusional space toy, one of the ideas first suggested was Tempest of Morph. Yep, let that one just sit with you for a moment. And brace yourself, Lunar Larry was another early moniker also used for Woody's eventual rival. Lunar Larry, that is. That particular name even found its way into early designs for the character, with an LL clearly being seen on his chest in a few sketches. It's rather hard to imagine a world where Lunar Larry from Star Command crash-landed in Andy's room by mistake all those years ago, but whether you like it or not, Lightyear was unbelievably almost Larry, folks. The real reason Emma Mackey was cast in Barbie. Joining the likes of the sensational Margot Robbie, Issa Rae, Kate McKinnon, Alexandra Shipp, and many more as the titular Barbies found wandering around Barbieland in Greta Gerwig's critical and commercial hit, Sex Education's Emma Mackey eventually brought physicist Barbie to life on screen. But along with being a brilliant actor, of course, there was actually another major and quite fascinating reason Gerwig and Robbie decided to hire Mackey as one of the walking, talking dolls in this 2023 masterpiece. Joining the many folks online who felt that Mackey was Robbie's doppelganger, the star of this fantasy comedy tale told BuzzFeed that herself and Gerwig pretty much had the British-French actor play a Barbie because they thought it would be funny. They had a whole joke planned about how the two looked similar too, but after the pair both got dressed up as their Barbies on set, and the brown-haired Mackey stood next to the blonde-haired Robbie, it soon became clear that they didn't actually look that similar at all. In the end then, the gag was dropped from the movie. As far as casting stories go, being basically brought into a movie because of a joke that didn't even make the cut is pretty wild. Psycho was the first US movie to show a toilet flushing. Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 horror classic Psycho is widely recognized as one of the most influential movies of all time. However, what you probably didn't realize is that this creepy picture also boasts a rather bizarre first. That moment when Janet Leigh's Marion Crane flushes some paper down the loo in the flick? Well, that was actually a pretty shocking visual back in the day. At that time, watching a toilet on the big screen in the United States was rather rare. In fact, this was actually the very first time a flushing bog had been seen in a mainstream movie or TV show in the States. The horror! Screenwriter Joseph Stefano wanted to include this moment as he felt if he could begin to unhinge the audience here, they'd be so out of it by the time of the shower murder it would be an absolute killer. And it was, of course. With folks all ultimately recoiling at the shocking and hugely iconic death that soon followed what was amazingly the first ever American mainstream movie flush. John Cazale only appeared in Oscar-nominated movies. This list has already mentioned a number of the truly gifted thespians who somehow have never once been nominated for an Academy Award during their otherwise impressive careers. But while the following performer also may not have taken home an Oscars nod, he still possessed a pretty unbelievable Academy Awards stat. The terrific John Cazale was tragically taken way too soon at the age of 42 back in 1978. However, during his relatively short film career, the star managed to appear in a number of all-time classics. Not only that, but every one of the 5 feature films he appeared in from 1972 to 1978 was actually nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. The Godfather, The Conversation, The Godfather Part Part 2, Dog Day Afternoon, and The Deer Hunter all received Best Picture nods in the end, with The Godfather features and The Deer Hunter winning the prize at the event too. To have only made 5 full-length movies and for all of them to earn this Oscars honour is about as remarkable as it gets, and this unmatched run helped immortalise the late Cazale as one of the finest character actors of his generation.